So a little rewind from last time. Okay. So SOHCAHTOA. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. So then we got to figure out which angle we're working with. And it says from angle B, cosine of B, sine of B, tangent of B. So we got to find the hypotenuse first. It's always easiest to find the hypotenuse first. That's opposite the right angle. And then opposite of B would be 8. Adjacent to B would be 6. So 8 over 10, which reduces to 4 over 5, is our sine of B. Cosine of B is adjacent over hypotenuse, which is 3/5. And tangent of B is 4/3. Okay. So here's why we do those fractions. So we can figure out problems like this. And I told you, make sure you have your calculator. Well, maybe I didn't remember to tell you guys, but get out your calculators because you'll need them. And I want you to use them right now to practice with this. Christian, no calculator? Oh, you have it today. All right. So we are good. All right. So a jet airliner is taking off at a angle of 12 degrees. After 12 and a half miles, what is its altitude? Because it has to fly over these mountains here. We don't want to crash against the mountains, so it has to have an altitude higher than these mountains over here. So 12 degrees, 12 and a half miles. Okay, how high will it be? Well, what is this side called? This is the opposite, because the hypotenuse is where the plane is. And this side is the adjacent. So opposite and adjacent is what trig function? Opposite adjacent. Tangent is opposite over adjacent. TOA. Okay? So we say the tangent of our angle, 12 degrees, equals the opposite side, x, over the adjacent side, 12.5. Now, how do we get x alone in this situation? Take it times 12.5. So on your calculator, make sure you're in degree mode. Should say DEG on there somewhere. So you take 12.5 times tangent of 12. You put 12.5 first. 12.5 times tangent of 12. You don't need parentheses, just a time sign in between them. Yep, 12.5 times tangent of 12. What do we get? It might say way at the top of it. DEG right there.
Oh, okay.
So you're in degree mode. You're in degree mode. You're good. So take 12.5 times and then tangent of 12. So that plane in the first 12 and a half miles of its flight went up in the air 2.65 miles. Okay? That's trig. That's the basics of trig. Figuring out sides and angles. Okay? All right, this one. A carpenter installs a brace to hold up a sagging gate so it's square. How long is this brace? We want to find this, right? That is the what of this triangle? Hypotenuse this time. So, what is this side? Opposite. And then hypotenuse. What's O? SOHCAHTOA. So it's the sine of my angle, 33.847, equals the opposite side, 3 over my hypotenuse, x. This one's a little harder to solve because how many problems do we see where x is on the bottom? Don't see that very often. But we got to get x off the bottom. If I'm dividing by x, how do I get it off the bottom? I have to multiply by x. So I'm going to multiply each side by x. So x sine of 33.847 equals 3, because the x's cancel here. Now I got to get x alone. X is being multiplied by 33.847, so then we divide by the sine of 33.847. So if you take 3 divided by the sine of 33.847, what do we get? 5.38, and that would be feet. That's how long the brace is. Okay, trig, the basics of trig. We want to figure out how big angle A and angle B are, okay? We want to figure out how big angle A and angle B are. Now, compared to angle A, what's this side called? Adjacent, because it's next to it. What is 4 called? Hypotenuse. What trig function is adjacent and hypotenuse? Cosine. So the cosine of my angle A, because I don't know an angle, equals my sides, 1/4. Okay. Now, what am I looking for? The measurement of angle A, right? Angle A. I want to get A alone on one side. So I got to move the cosine to the other side. Now, we don't just divide by cosine. We can't type in 1/4 divided by cosine on our calculator and get anything. What happens, our calculator is programmed to do what's called the inverse cosine. Where is inverse cosine located on your calculator? You hit the second button, so you go second cosine, and you type in 1/4. 75.5 degrees, okay? That's how you find A. Let's find B. B, what's 1? Opposite. So 1 would be the opposite. So to find angle B, opposite and hypotenuse are what? Sine. So the sine of angle B is 1/4, because opposite over hypotenuse. So you do the same thing. Do the inverse sine of 1/4. 14.5, right? Now, somebody add up A and B. Chuck, you're a smart kid.
165.5. Yeah, I was going to say.
Well, what?
90 plus 75.5.
No. I said add up A and B.
Sorry.
But you're still in your mind thinking the right thing. 90. A and B add up to 90. What's angle C? 90, because there's 180 degrees in triangles. So if you figure out A, do you even need to figure out B? No, you can just subtract it from 90. Okay? Well, I just want this to be a learning experience so you guys kind of discover, hey, that should be that. Okay, so trig ratios. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so cosine is adjacent over hypotenuse, ca, and tangent is opposite over adjacent, oa. So, ka, toa. Okay? So, if you're looking for a side, so if you're finding a side, if you have like x and 22 and 47, okay, it's just the normal sine of 47 equals x over 22. If you're finding an angle, if you want to find an angle where this is x, this is 10 or 11, and this is 22, then you'd say the sine of x equals 11 over 22. So x would equal the inverse sine of 11 over 22. So when you're finding an angle, you're going to use the inverse sine. When you're finding a side, we just multiply by 22. So you get 22 sine of 47. You use the regular sign. So when you're finding a side, you use the regular sign. When you're finding an angle, you use the inverse sign. Okay, so what I'm going to do is, for the first part of class, we're going to work on the Savas questions on Savas Realize. Okay? And then we're going to come back a little later and do we're going to do a super easy worksheet then after that, because I'm going to not grade the Savas Realize homework, but I need you to do it. Okay? But then we're going to do a couple super easy worksheets after that, and those are the ones I am going to grade. Okay?